One of the important ideas that I share with folks who want to get started with this Nomad Capitalist stuff but aren't sure exactly when to start and in what order to do things is setting up what I call tunnels. Things that you may not necessarily need now, but you can lock in, forget about it, and have them waiting for you when the time comes. In this video, I'm going to talk more about tunnels and give you some examples that you can start with. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this book, Nomad Capitalist, where we talk about how to legally reduce your taxes overseas, legally open foreign bank accounts, diversify and protect yourself with things like second passports, and make investments in emerging markets that have higher profit potential. We help people do that every day. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And what I want to talk about today is the concept of tunnels. This is something that I came up with for folks who aren't exactly sure if they're ready to do the full dive into this Nomad Capitalist stuff now. So people think, oh, I have to leave my home country, I have to move overseas, I have to reduce my tax bill now. The reality is, no, you don't. We talk about so many different strategies in the book, here on our channel, on nomadcapitalist.com, that you can apply any of them or all of them. And so tunnels for me are a great way to lock in a good deal today, even if you don't need that thing immediately. And I'll give you an example. Close to a decade ago at this point, I went to Singapore. Singapore has some of the strongest banks in the world, and at the time it was relatively easy for a foreigner to come in who didn't live there, walk in and open a bank account. You couldn't make an appointment, you just had to kind of walk in and it was the luck of the draw. But I did that about 8 years ago in Singapore and walked into one of the big three banks, said, I want to open an account. They said, okay, we have this thing, it's like a basic account, it's only in Singapore dollars. I said, okay, that's great, I can hold this other currency and yeah, I'll open it. I go through the whole process, takes about an hour. They say, okay, we need 1,000 Singapore dollars. At the time, that was about 800 bucks. I said, how do you want that? They said, well, we'd like some cash. I literally had to go to the ATM that day, and then they let me come back the next day because I had a US ATM card with a limit on it. And I put the cash in the account. Now, that account now has more than $1,000, but I am essentially grandfathered into that account. I may not be able to upgrade that account to a premier banking account in some cases, even though I may qualify financially, but they're generally not going to close that account for me. And so I built what was called a tunnel, okay? I may have not needed that account as much then. I may have not had as much money to put in that account back then. But I was able to establish something that now many years later is serving me very well. I have an account at one of the top 15 or 20 strongest banks in the world. They don't bother me. They don't care that I'm now no longer a US citizen. They're just very easy to work with, okay? I built a tunnel. You can do this with bank accounts, okay? And so what I'll tell people sometimes is go and open several bank accounts around the world. You may need to use those for transactions. You may need to use those to facilitate investments around the world. I can tell you, if you use that Singapore bank account to do some kind of business deal in Russia or in the Middle East, they're going to raise an eyebrow. And so if you're planning on doing deals around the world, having bank accounts around the world to facilitate those may be helpful. All right? If you're opening a business, having redundancies is important. Okay, so you may not need more than one account now, but you might want to have a second or a third in case something comes up. You can do this with bank accounts. You can also do this with residence permits, okay? Just because you're not ready to move overseas doesn't mean you can't lock in a second residence permit. Many countries offer residences where you can make a qualifying investment. It could be as little as $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. Go through the residence process, get the residence permit, and you may only need to come back once every 6 months, once every year, once every 2 years, occasionally once even every 5 years, okay? Now you have that residence permit. So now it's sitting there. So let's say that you maybe want to leave your home country in a couple of years, or you're not sure if you want to leave your home country, but you want the option to have a place to go where they're going to let you in as more than just a tourist, okay? Well, now it's sitting there, and it's a low maintenance residence permit you can keep in your back pocket. And if something crazy happens, if riots break out or a pandemic or whatever, okay, you can pack up and go over there. You can also set that residence permit up to where it may lead to a second citizenship in the future. And so now you're going to have the even greater power, the greater options of having a citizenship versus just a residence permit, okay? And the reason why I say that's a tunnel is the prices of these programs either generally goes up or the program just goes away, okay? So there's been a few programs in Latin America where it used to be, you literally would just put $5,000 in the bank and you would let it sit there. You'd come back to the country maybe once a year, and eventually you could work towards citizenship, or at least they'd never cancel your residence permit. Now, some of those countries are starting to require that you actually live in the country, and so new residence permits, they're becoming a bit more difficult with them. You also see a lot of programs where they raise the price. Back about the same time I opened that Singapore bank account, Latvia was in the process of raising the fees on its Golden Visa program, which gives you access to all of Europe and potentially access to EU citizenship in the future. You could buy €250,000 of real estate in Latvia. I think even that used to be lower, but the current number is €250,000. The government fees were literally a couple €100. I mean, it was nothing. Okay. Now, there's a government fee of 5% of the price of the real estate, or if you do the bank deposit option, it's €25,000. That's some real money compared to I think it was €160. It was ridiculously cheap. Okay. Right now in Turkey, there's a citizenship by investment program. Now, you want to be very careful that you're buying $250,000 of high quality real estate. On our team, we've got a native Turkish speaker. We find great deals for folks in Istanbul, so they're not overpaying. Many of the deals for these citizenship programs are vastly overpriced. But if you can find a great deal and you can invest $250 at a price point that's actually the actual market price, the government fees are actually very low. Now, here's the thing. Turkey was the world's #1 investment immigration program last year. There's a whole host of benefits that the people who like these programs are interested in, including E2 visa access to the US. I think at some point you'll see Turkey, #1, potentially raise the investment level. We talked about some rumors of that earlier this year, or also impose some government fees. It's happened in Latvia, it's happened in Bulgaria, it's happened in other countries where they just decide, hey, we have plenty of demand. Why should we give this away for so cheap? And so you can take advantage of setting up a tunnel, getting something in place while it's affordable. I'm always talking about finding the next Singapore. I'm always looking for the next place. Now, sometimes folks come to us and they say, hey, listen, Andrew, I make $20 million a year. I'm just going to go and buy these, 2 things and do this over here and buy my real estate and I'm going to forget about it. And that's a great strategy too. But if you're not exactly sure which direction you're going, whether you have a lot of money or not, you probably want to keep your options open. And so, getting in on the current programs, okay? Again, once something becomes too popular, it's like Singapore level, right? They start to impose fees, they start to make it more difficult, maybe eventually they cancel the program. Hong Kong, up until about 7 or 8 years ago, had a great program, the Capital Entrant Investment Scheme, where you could just put 10 million Hong Kong dollars in the bank, essentially, and get residence. You wouldn't really get citizenship, but there's not really such a thing, but per se, but they got rid of it. They just had too many people. What do we need this for anymore, right? We want people who are starting big businesses. We want people who are doing real investment in the region. And so if you had locked that in before, in many of these cases, you could just get to keep it under the better terms. You get to keep it with the lower fees. You get to keep it. And so get your residence permit turned on, get your citizenship, get your bank accounts, get your whatever before it becomes more expensive. I'm not talking about buying properties and hoping that they go up in value. This is not entirely speculative. What I'm saying is setting up infrastructure, because in addition to higher costs, you also may see more regulations. You may see that banks say, you know what, we don't want foreigners anymore. Doesn't matter. But they're generally not going to kick out the foreigners that they already have. Okay? So they may not even raise the price, but they'll merely just say, you're not welcome anymore. We don't need you anymore. So that's why I think being grandfathered in is a very important thing to do. If you're just starting and you're not exactly sure what to do, find a program that has a relative level of investment that you're comfortable with. In terms of banking, the Georgias, the Armenias, the Ecuadors, countries like that, you can open a bank account with $1. Right? Go and put $100 in. Just leave it there. Right? You may have to report that in your home country. There may be a little bit of interest you've got to report. Whatever. Get that set up, and then if you ever need it in the future, it's sitting there. I can guarantee you a lot of these things you would set up today, 5 years from now, they won't even be an option. That is the power of having tunnels. I think everyone should consider setting up some tunnels, even if you're going for it, even if you're going full speed on high-level citizenship by investments or high-level banking. Get a call option. Even if you're banking in Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Singapore, go get that $100 Armenian bank account tunnel. Get that set up. Go get that little residence permit, because you never know what the next Singapore might be, whether it's banking, whether it's residence, whether it's citizenship. Build your tunnels. I think it's a great strategy everyone can start with or add to their mix. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.